like didn't. It wasn't like an explicit, but it was so explicit in the implication or in the language. I showed it to you. The crazy thing, it was about how she like. Um, a lot of it was about how she wanted to be able to connect with you. Like she wants to like have it. She knows that this sounds crazy, but like because she wants to like form a connection so much, it's like worth it to be crazy. Like it was. She was there for like an hour or a couple hours. Yeah. I talked to her and she told me that she really wanted to come to your studio. So.
doing for training?
I eat pizza.
Yeah. You know, riding, I mean, I think working out and being in shape, I mean, I've done this race in all different scenarios of my being in shape, being not in shape. One year I didn't plan on even racing until 12 days before the race, got asked to do it and did it. So it was not fun. It wasn't fun for me. So you definitely want to be in shape for this race, because when you're tired, you know, that's when mistakes happen, and it's pretty tough. But nothing, to me, nothing beats actually riding. Nothing substitutes riding. So if you can put on miles, I think that, you know, even for trail class, if you guys can put on a few, you know, miles before, instead of it just being the actual trail, get out there and do some riding. You know, if you guys can get on pro class, if you're, you know, I would say an absolute minimum, have 1,500 miles on before you do the race. That'd be an absolute minimum. That's just my thrown out suggestion. Obviously more than that, the merrier. You know, going to the gym definitely helps in being in shape. So, you know, talking about cold weather training, we kind of talked about it a little bit. You have to do it, because you don't want the first time you drive in cold weather to be during the race. Especially like the pro class, the trail class guys, recognition class, they're going to be carrying more gear and stuff than the pro class guys. But you want to get out there and train in that cold weather. Because, like I said, other than there's probably about 2 or 3 years that I can think of in all the years that I've done it, that's kind of an exception. It's going to at least be 25 below on the Yukon, at least. So, and it could be 55, 60 below. So, it's not fun to go out there and train, but at least go out there, even if it's just for smaller rides, just kind of get a feel for what it's like to go out there and ride in those conditions. You know, leading up to the race, making sure that you're hydrated before the race. You know, make sure you're plenty hydrated before helps. What happens is during the race, you know, once you get dehydrated, it takes days to get caught back up. So staying hydrated. Another big one that we see a lot. We see a lot of people. They ride all year, and then right before the race, they pack all their gear on their bag, and then they're like, you know, this is the day before the race, and they're like, holy crap, man, my sled rides like garbage. We added all this weight to it, and it just rides like crap. So the biggest thing, in my opinion, when I go out and train every weekend, I essentially, I shouldn't say all the time, 90% of the time, I have about the same amount of weight on my sled. I don't carry a sleeping bag with me typically, but I do substitute that with multiple extra layers of clothes, so that if I have some options for clothes while we're out there, and if we break down, I've got some stuff. But I mean, tools, clothing, gear, everything. The other thing too is that training, you know, packing and unpacking your sled. I already know where I want to keep everything on my sled, so if I'm training with it all year that way, when the race comes, I already know where everything's at. It's not like all of a sudden I just stuff stuff in there the night before the race, and now I'm trying to find it during the race. I've been training like that all year. I already know where everything is on my sled. Over the years, obviously, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't work and where to keep stuff. So I think that's a big part of this training. Suspension's a big part of it. We'll get into sled setup, but if you don't train with that weight on there, it's not going to work. So make sure you guys are doing that, and doing it early, not the night before the race. Like I said, we see it. People are looking for springs and suspension and all kinds of stuff. Literally especially that week leading up to the race. And it's like, you guys should have figured this out long before this. So again, be thinking about that. What works, and then, like I said, even last minute, you're going to want to try and like pack more stuff than you want, and so be thinking about that. You know, we're kind of talking about it during the break. I mean, that was, I felt like my first rookie workshop, they basically told you to bring everything and then the kitchen sink, and I think that was a bad I think that was bad advice. I think that you need to have stuff on you to be able to fix your sled, be able to stay the night in the woods. But carrying a bunch of extra crap that you don't need is a disservice to you and your sled. It's hard on your sled. The more stuff that you're packing on it, the harder it is. The harder it is to ride. So, you know, there's definitely that compromise of being light and having the stuff that you need. And then there's a perfect balance of having what you need that's light and making it all come together. And having enough stuff. Like I said, if you have to stay the night out there, be thinking about that. If you had to stay the night on the trail, what do you need to survive? And make sure you have it. I mean, that's what I think. But at the same time, you don't need, you know, 10 pairs of clothes and, you know, all this different stuff.
I feel like hopefully that everything he's stating is, if you're in the pro class, it's changing and more people are seeing us preparing for it, and that's hopefully not the case. But I do feel like, not to pick on trail class guys here, that is, they all of a sudden have never put a sleeping bag on their sled, and they show up to the starting line, and I'm not kidding, you look at this thing's like a pile of stuff, like this tall, and they're trying to strap it down, and they're going down the Etna, and there goes your sleeping bag, and this, I mean, it happens. You watch
We've watched it.
Don't do
every
that.
year.
Get stuff on there. Give you perspective. That Chris's, maybe this one's not great.
Well,
That's what my sled looks like.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the only thing
That
I
is
don't
what-
have on mine is my bag in the rear, which I forgot. I should have brought it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have it strapped down, and, you know, also, like, having that training with what you're going to ride makes a big difference. Because, I mean, I've seen guys at the very, you know, they've got all these ideas, like guys that were they were clamping their A-arms on their back bag. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, that's not going to work. And they're like, oh no, we welded these tabs, we did all this stuff, and then they went down the trail one time and it freaking broke off, and he's like, you were right, it doesn't work. And it was like, yeah, we've been there and done that, you know, so you got to try this stuff out and make sure that it works. And the only way you're going to do that is training in real life, not just, when Larry would come in and help train, he would say the same thing. It's like, you start looking at the pro guys and you start noticing that there's a lot of similarities between them, whether it's clothing, sled setups, and stuff like that. It's because everybody's figured out what works and what doesn't work, essentially, and there's a reason why everybody kind of looks the same and kind of has the same stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's some variances and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's stuff that works. You know, like a lot of these guys will be like, well, we got money, we could buy the best gear in the world, and we can get this or whatever it is, and then they try it, and it doesn't work. So, like I said, the only way you're going to know that it works or doesn't work is getting out there and trying it.
From the point he talks about training and all this stuff, it's pro guys, try to get yourself to Puntilla if you can. I know there's people online that probably out of state. Even with that, if you can just get yourself up there, that's a good, just to, if it's a week before the race, I suggest doing that. That's a good milestone. Trail class, if you guys can get yourself to Shell Lake, Finger Lake, I'd say that's a really solid, like, kind of gets you up, showing you what the terrain's gonna be like, some of the trail. You don't need to go through some of that section between Finger Lake and Puntilla. Is historically, it's pretty tough, but it gets you up across the flats, kind of understanding what you're gonna be seeing.
More single track stuff. Yeah.
With that, it's just like I said, having all of that gear on, making sure you can get it to that point and get to there will be huge.
On that same note, I can tell you from personal experience, like, you know, especially now with social media and what everybody's doing, you know, guys are going further and like I said, going to Puntilla, going past Puntilla, going to McGrath and all this stuff. It sounds great, but the reality is you also have to look at what could happen. You know, I mean, I remember in 2010, we rode up to Puntilla, one of my teammates' sled freaking blew up. Well, you know, there's 2 days when it's all said and done of, you know, that you're not training and you're you know, because now we had to tow back. It was a miserable day towing back all the way back to Big Lake. Actually, we ended up going to Deschka Landing, but that's also something to consider when you're training. You don't always have to go the furthest, but putting on miles is different. You know, getting those miles on, going. You know, we've also changed the way that we train, like the way I train is a lot different now than when we first started. When we first started, we went back and forth. We went from Big Lake to the river, Big Lake to the river, Big Lake to the river, Big Lake to the river. I mean, that's literally what we did, which is great for certain aspects. It was super rough, super bumpy. We got that down to a pat, but you know, one thing that we did realize is that, you know, we didn't do very much turning. It was like the trail's pretty straight, and we needed that practice of getting that single track turning. So, you know, variety train is also pretty critical. Different conditions, when it's rock hard, when it's extra snow out there. Suspension acts, and you'll hear this, and the pros know this, in and out. You can have the best setup you've ever had in your life, and then the conditions will change the next week, and you're like, this is the crappiest setup I've ever had in my life. So, you know, when it comes to sled setup, it's usually a compromise, and sometimes you're compromising over the soft snow, big bumps, to the hard snow, small chatter bumps, you know, getting out there and doing it all so that you know that it works in all those conditions, because at the end of the day, setting it up for one condition doesn't work out very well. We'll kind of get into sled setup, but it's part of that training and preparing for it. Getting out and, you know, being prepared for an emergency for sure, and that's what I'm talking about. You get out there, it can ruin your whole day or even week, depending on where you are. Like I said, if you break down out in Rome, it's a big deal.
That's just part of it, honestly. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that's the risk you're going to take. It's going to happen. I've broken down out in Rome, and you're going to, it's part of it. It's part of doing this race, part of being out there. I wouldn't deter that from going and doing that if you want to. I have broken down in Hell's Gate training, and it's taken me a day and a half to get out of there. It's going to test you. It's part of the fun. It's part of the suck. Embrace it. You know, I mean, it's not just the race, it's everything leading up to it. It's
Need to be prepared for it.
be prepared for it, get yourself, I got myself out there, you're able to do it, so.
Yeah, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just saying think about the consequences that can happen, and there is other options to train getting miles on besides getting out in the middle of nowhere is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, you know, be prepared, ask questions. I would highly recommend not being the first person to go do something, to go out someplace that no one's been yet. That's just me. But maybe, I don't know, maybe you're adventurous and want to do that. So, you know, a couple things that I just haven't noted down here. You know, basically know how to use your equipment, how to treat hypothermia, get help, you know, how to get out if you break through ice. You know, the first aid practices, I think that, you know, going through the water, unfortunately, like I said, I know all too well what it's like to be in the water. You need to be prepared to be in the water. What's going to happen to you and your sled and your equipment. I think it's just a big part of the wilderness in Alaska. I mean, you know, all of our trails are on lakes and rivers, and so it's inherently you're going to be in the, you know, traveling over water. So.
Has everybody water skipped a sled here? You ever had to do that? Raise hands.
Who
hasn't
hasn't?
done that? You're possibly going to be, I don't want to freak you out by any means. In most places, you're going to be able to, you guys are all 3 inch trail bikes. Take your time. Like, we're trying to do it, process it very quickly and do it. You're going to have time to, like, go try that somewhere safe, like without a current, anything you get sucked under an ice. There's spots, just kind of get a feel for it. This is something that people freak out about crossing water. Like they're gonna go at it, you're either gonna go at it too slow, and you're gonna kind of get to it, and then right before it, you're gonna like spin out, or you're gonna creep up to it and spin out, and then you're gonna go into it too slow, or you're gonna go way too fast. And probably way too fast is what more people do, is I think you need to go 100 and hit the thing.
Yeah,
You just have it's like 30, 40 mile an hour, you go into it and then go across it, and just kind of figure out a nice smooth spot to go in, nice spot to go out, figure out what that is. You could be put in a scenario that you're going to have to cross. I'm going to say, if just looking back at the race, 99% of the time, you got to cross something. It could be something as wide as, you know, here to the airplane at a minimum, or you could have, there could be longer sections, but that's going to be stuff that you choose to do probably if you had to narrow it down. Most places you can't, but get comfortable doing that. Just go try it. whether it be on a little lake spot or somewhere, if you did have an issue, you can get back out.
Yeah, I think having that confidence of going across the water, that, you know, it's not as scary as he's saying, don't freak out about it. Most of the time, like I said, with the trail class, if you pick your way through the trail, you should be able to get around. Most of the time you can get around any water. The pro class guys they don't want to have to take the time to go around something, so they'll just go through it. I tend to, even when I'm practicing, I don't purposely go across the water, especially on the river, because, you know, you go through, you know, it doesn't take much for a machine mechanically to have an issue, and you're in the water. So I don't historically take a bunch of risks, but there's some. And when they're smaller, like he's talking about the smaller channels and stuff, that you know when you have enough speed that you're going to make it, whether you lose all power or not. To me, it's not as big of a deal. But being comfortable and just trying it, I think it's a big deal. I mean, I think it's a good thing to do, because you get comfortable and realize that, hey, these things go really well, and not going, like Tyler said, not going too slow or too fast, because those are the two things that are screwing you up. You go too fast. I've seen it a bunch of times where people, they just haul ass and they're getting to the other edge, and there might even just be a small lip on the other side that's very manageable, but when they don't have their front end up and they're going super fast, and they can't adjust their weight because they're going full throttle across it, and they hit it and just destroy their front ends, or, you know, endo or whatever. You don't have to be going that fast, but just maintaining your speed is a big one.
So another perspective I think that's with training here and getting yourself prepared is there's going to be a lot of scenarios. You're not going to be, even trail class, you're not going to be just sitting on a river, pushing the button, going down the trail. You're going to have to get your butt off the seat. You're going to have to get on a running board. You're going to have to move around a little, right? There's going to be terrain where there's going to be fall lines where things are going around, and you're going to have to get off and move around. So to kind of bring this into packing your sled, you notice all of our sleds, you see how the seat, there's nothing real high back here. Like everything's not piled up super high up on the back of this. There's a reason behind that. Because you're going to have to jump over the other side of the running board. You're going to go up, leaving Whiskey Bravo, which is the mine that we go to, that's like out of Peak Pony Way towards Montilla. There is absolutely a hill that's going to have a pretty good side hill-ish to it. You're going to have to get up and stand on one of your running boards and move around and move side to side. Now when you have all that pack over here and trying to move around, you don't have that ability. You're going to get your leg caught on it. Now you're on that hill and you start, and then you roll your sled down the hill, your yard sail everywhere. Get comfortable with some of that. It's not just cruising down the trail and just saying, I can ride down this trail. It's learn how to really ride a little bit. I'd even suggest somebody go up to Hatcher's Pass, somewhere like that. Learn. If you don't have that solid of a background of riding a snowmobile, there's a lot of this race that is beyond that bucket of just a racing down a trail and going fast. It is how to get around overflow, water, side hilling, getting out of a creek. You're going to get down into some spots over to Poor Man. Possibly we could be diving down into like a 10, 15 foot creek bottom and have to come back out. You know, have to pop out of the other side, not slam into it. There's just all these considerations that maybe you get. I feel like people get hung up thinking it's all cruising down a trail all the time.
Even just deep snow. I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, we could get some big snows right before the race, and you know, even the trail class, you guys are going to be out there breaking the trail, and if you don't know how to ride in snow, it could be the difference between making it fun and being absolutely miserable.
Again, it's not picking like Poor Man to Ruby. It's a road. I swear there are more people stuck on that road than anywhere else in the rest of this trip. Absolutely. There are, because you get lackadaisical, you're on this road, it's a mining road, and so it's not a big wide road, but they get on it and they get sucked over, and it winds around, and not exaggerating, there's probably 30 stuck holes of people like going through that trail class, and that goes along with being able to move around on your sled and get on the side. I think you get, in the past, some teams have got out there and they have such a load on, they can't manage that. They don't know how to manage it around it.
I just literally this last week, a guy came in and was talking, Russ Siebert. Yeah. We were talking about the race, and I while we're on the subject, we had I wanted to change my plugs. We were leaving Ruby and we were heading back towards Portman, and my teammate was just getting mad at me. He's like, "We don't need to do that. We're going to get behind. We're going to get behind these guys. If they're going to get in front of us." And I'm like, I said, "What are you talking about? They'll be in front of us for maybe 5 or 10 miles, and then they're going to be stuck, and we're just going to go right around them." So sure enough, we waited. They go by us because we're working on my sled, and sure enough, yeah, about 10 miles down the road, you know, they were over there stuck on the road. So I mean, you get sucked off into that soft snow, and you don't know how to ride. It's going to keep sucking you off. So. That didn't sound quite right.
So, I mean, get on that again.
Yeah.
Go out and go ride some powder a little bit, ride with your setup. Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
do that.
cross
Absolutely.
training
I
for
mean,
sure.
if we get snow,
Yeah,
there's a lot of other
Look
places
at
to
the
go
grass.
to and go see it. I mean, that's close to being here and speaking to everybody in this room. Like I said, Hatcher's a cool spot. You know, ride the swamps. Like, learn to carve your sled with all this stuff around it a little bit. Like that's, you're gonna be doing that. It's not so.
See, I have on here, you know, getting your sled going after it's sunk. Like I said, we talked about being in the water. You know, getting some ideas on, you know, draining your pipe, pulling your plugs, that kind of stuff to be able to get it started. Most of us that are running 2-strokes these days, so they're pretty relatively easy at getting going. If they do get stuck, so don't feel like if you have to pull your sled out of the water, that it's not possible to get it going again. It's actually pretty easy, relatively easy. So.
I'd say anybody in the pro class, you guys probably know how to do that. If you had to, right? That's something. You've ever been in that? Yeah, some part of the team is going to know about it. And then trail class, yeah, you guys have a bit of a safety net out there with having people too that are going to be helping each other out within the trail class community of, you know, you're traveling somewhat together. So, and I wouldn't anticipate anybody sinking a sled. That's shouldn't be happening. That's worst case scenario. You got Randy out there.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. MacGyver.
Yeah, pretty much snorkel.
Yeah.
Getting into nutrition, you know, thinking about, you know, getting up to the race, you know, what you eat out on the trail. I'm not a nutritionalist, so I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't eat, but obviously, you know, trying to eat healthy. The big one that I do want to talk about is like, you know, if you're out on the trail and bringing food with you, snacks and stuff like that. I mean, we've all, again, this is just trying what you have. I mean, usually like if it's a honey-based type of bar, it's freaking rock hard when it's 30 below out, then you're going to chip a tooth instead of eating something. So be thinking about that. You know, maybe carrying some food. It's not a requirement. We used to actually have to carry food for the race. I still highly recommend having some food with you, even if it's.
I have a heck of a snack bag on there.
Yeah.
I eat it. I honestly, I think I've changed in that. I used to never touch anything. It was just like you grit it through it, and you kind of do it a little bit with your hand with this water. But like I in that handlebar bag, what works for me and is we make some again. One of they're gummies. They're like these little block gummies. They're a big gummy bear type thing. Cliff, I think Cliff makes them, and I have a bunch of those that are in there and individually, and what I can do, what's nice about them, even at 40, 50 below, or whatever temp, even if they're hard, you can just throw them in your mouth. I'll throw like 2 of them in my mouth, and just, you can kind of suck on them, like put them in a corner and like stay ahead of it. Like I even started taking those maybe right at Puntilla or Whiskey Bravo there. I'm already starting to get ahead of it before, because I know I'm going to get hungry from Roan going to Nikolai and McGrath. Like you're going to start to get hunger pains. It's got to happen. So if you can get ahead of it, keep a little bit of energy in there. You want to do that. As soon as you're on the other side of it, it's hard to. You're putting that in. You're not going to get it back. Like it's. That's what I find. I like the gummy style ones. I do carry the goo packs that he has. Those are a little harder because you can do them at a checkpoint. Nice part about the gummy is I can honestly I'll put them in, or even if like there's a time I'm like waiting on my partner or something, there's something a slow portion of the trail and I feel it coming, I'll throw them in and just have them in there just to kind of ease myself a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, the big thing is trying something that's gonna work for you. You know, it doesn't freeze, whether it's jerky or a butter-based, or
Yep.
sorry, not, a nut-based type bar that maybe doesn't freeze as hard, that you can actually eat. 'Cause, you know, we've all been out there and tried to get something that we had that's rock hard and you can't do it. Same with like, you know, hydration and on the trail, you know, we kind of talked, I think we talked a little bit about it during the break. People were asking, I know Tyler doesn't drink water on the trail, but, I highly recommend, in the pro class though, especially the first days, the roughest. Like we'll get into what your strategy should be, but, you're going to try and make it to McGrath for the pro class guys. It's a pretty long day, and you know, between hydration and nutrition, you definitely want to stay hydrated and again have some food that day, ideally. The checkpoints are set up with some water and some. I highly recommend you taking the time to get some water when you get to those checkpoints. You know, I know sometimes you're in a race and you're like, that's going to take too much time, but I think for most of you, we haven't discussed it too much, but even in the pro class, if this is your first time racing it, you know, your goal should be to finish, not to win. If you want to win, that's fine, but I think that your main goal should be to finish, and by doing that is to make yourself comfortable during the race, and again, getting that hydration, even again, if it takes 30 extra seconds at a checkpoint, it'll be worth it in the long run to you. Same with like popping in a couple, you know, something to eat during that first day, because like you said, you stay in front of it instead of getting behind. You said dehydration. It takes days for you to get rehydrated. So.
Do you pack a straw?
Yes, I do. So like with, you know, we used to have open face helmets. We didn't really talk about that too much, but you know, it's nice with open face helmets being able to drink and eat. I mean, that's a huge advantage with them. With the newer ones, you know, it's hard to get something, and obviously we're not planning on taking our helmets off during the race, so we're, you know, a lot of the places will have straws. So like the first couple, like you go to Squinton, they're going to have cups and straws and everything right there. Don't have to worry about it. Yes, no,
you just share them.
Yeah, we just share them. Yeah, they'll have some, and a bunch of them will have straws. Not all of them. Some places you're going to go to like Ronan, you're going to get a water bottle and you're not straws in it. So you know, we carry a little tube that we carry in our pocket, and we can suck out of it if you want to. And of course, you get pretty efficient also at just stuffing that thing in there. You obviously want to be kind of careful. So
Try to do
it yourself. Yeah.
What's hard about hydration is when Chris hits on it, I don't pack any water on the sled for the fact that it freezes. I don't like a CamelBak. I've never had good luck with them. That's here or there. There's going to be water at checkpoints. Sometimes it's frozen at the checkpoints. Just prepare.
Yep.
You might not get water. Sometimes
Yep.
it sucks.
Don't expect it in any place, but historically you will get it at most of them, especially the first day. After that, it gets a little bit more sparse. But the first day is the day that's going to be the most. Going to McGrath is when you're going to need it more than anything. And speaking of having like a hydration pack, I do carry a CamelBak. I'm one of the few people that still will use a CamelBak, and I only use it the first day. That's the only time I have it. I have a pouch in my tech vest that I carry it in. I don't carry very much. I have just a little bit in there. I've had it in there. I've been using it forever, so I have a system down. You know, you make sure you blow the liquid back in there so it doesn't freeze up. I keep my straw 100% accessible, so there's usually the point between going to Puntilla that I'm probably drinking. I'll put it in my mouth and I'll just keep it in my mouth and I'll be kind of just sipping on it while I'm going. It doesn't take me any time or anything, so I'm just, but like I said, after the first day, I typically don't fill it up. I don't use it after the first day, but I have provisions to be able to do it, because there has been times like on the Yukon where it just becomes a block of ice, and I don't want to be carrying that around. But on the first day, it is nice.
It really becomes, tell you, you're gonna want it the first and second day. After that, I just don't notice it. Like, you're not nearly as aerobic, moving as much. You know, once you're using Yukon, you're gonna want some water, and they're really good about it in Portman. You're gonna be tired more than likely. Over to Portman, it's a long stretch, and they're typically very good about having a straw and a cup of something they kept inside for them. So
and anybody that hasn't run the course, you're very lucky in this modern age. Back when I first started riding, we used to have mile markers between Ophir and Poor Man, and you'd get to about 40 miles to Poor Man, and every single time that you would see a mileage, you'd just be like, what the? I've been riding for half a day and I've only made it for 10 miles. So you're actually lucky that there's no mile markers on there anymore. Anybody have any questions on hydration or nutrition at all? Or okay.
One of those things, I guess, that goes into, that might be something that you look at sending out if you're going to eat a lot of those blocks and stuff. A lot of places I'll have those strategically placed, like I'll either have some in McGrath maybe, or in Uniclete, just to replenish. Like I'm eating that many of them out there trying to have that stuff. I have it sent out somewhere.
Are you mailing them like to the roadhouse?
I know. This is an advantage, yes. I know to having connections at these places. That would definitely be Iron Dog question, logistics. Might be something to ask who if they have a central, like whoever is the checker identified at those locations. Might be something sometimes you can get sent to there. So be a follow-up for. Yeah, I know that they've in the past that has been something they've accommodated is like trying to send out a few things.
Kind of get into just talking about race strategy. I think a big thing is, save time. That's the biggest one is you're going to make up more time by saving time. And that means, not making any dumb mistakes. Sometimes going slower is faster because, when you're braking your machine, fixing your machine takes way longer than just slowing down just a little teeny bit. So you don't want to override. You want to be efficient with your gear, at checkpoints. You don't want to be dilly-dallying around. You can make up a lot of time on the checkpoints by getting in and out of there quick, but again, don't rush it to where you're forgetting stuff. Don't forget to lock your panel down. When you're, not that I would know what this is all about, but going 100 mile an hour and your side panel goes flying off because you forgot to, hook it back up. Take time to make sure that you do everything correct. But again, it's being efficient and doing the same thing every time usually helps. Especially when you go into a checkpoint, it's always a little bit different.
If you watch some of the top teams, watch some of the videos and just see how it is very methodical of how we have everything set up and who's doing what. I have my task, your partner has his task, and you don't deviate from it. I don't all of a sudden decide I'm going to start doing oil and this. We have it all lined out amongst us. Like we know how we're going to do this to the T, where we're going to do it. Exactly, and I mean, understanding even where you guys are going to put oil in. I mean, if we, I don't want to jump. This is in line with that. I'd say put oil in everywhere. Like you're getting to that point with these things now, and not sure if this is kind of becoming a little bit of a issue. I'd say in some cases in the races, like all of a sudden they don't have enough oil at certain locations. I would just fill up almost every single checkpoint you can to start keeping it topped off. And is it good from your guys' perspective? That's how I would look at it.
And even being a rookie and feeling like you're losing a bunch of time, I can tell you right now that if you fuel up at every checkpoint with the exception of Squinta, Whiskey Bravo, and Roan, or Tatina, with the exception of those places that have multiple pumps, every place else that you go, you will have more than enough time to oil while your teammate's fueling, because there's only one pump at pretty much every other checkpoint for the whole race. So keep in mind, you're not losing any time by getting fuel or getting oil because when your teammate's fueling, you could be getting oil, and vice versa. Then you go up and get fuel, and he's getting oil because he has to wait for you, and you have to wait for him every time. So there's plenty of time in those. So don't feel like, again, we're not giving you misinformation. It's like a lot of, we run a remote oil reservoir on ours. You don't need that because, again, other than those first 3 checkpoints, which you only have to get oil at one of those, technically. And again, I don't want to get too much into each sled is different and where you need to get oil, but you're not going to lose any time by putting oil in. We're having to open your side panel and put oil in there because you have plenty of time to do it.
So all of a
So,
sudden you're, oh shoot, when did I do it last? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, do I have enough? And you didn't put it in Galena, and now you're
That's what you're
90,
thinking
you're
about.
89 miles to Caltag, and your oil light comes on when you pull out of Galena, and it's like, oh shit. Now what do I do? Do I go back and get oil? Or do I risk it? Am I going to make it? Like, we just put it in all the time. That's my suggestion for you guys all. Just go at it that route. The advantage, like I said, not to say we're leading in the wrong. I know all those by heart. So you guys are gonna have probably your little cheat sheet of your like, oh, how far is it to the next checkpoint and the gas and all these things. Like you're gonna be reading into that for fuel. Try to prep and think about that as much as possible with where you are gonna like, okay, I know I am now in Ruby. I'm gonna go to Galena. I don't need to have auxiliary fuel between here and there. But I would still put oil in each one of those. Kind of understand what you think you're going to need auxiliary fuel. And on that note, one that everybody overlooks, and is probably has more people run out of fuel in this whole entire race, is Galena to Caltech.
yeah,
On the thing, it's listed as 89 miles.
yeah, don't.
You fill up everything, and it is still very tight.
It's
Has to
really
do with
tight.
the snow consistency. It's like a really dry, dragging snow. It's everything about it. Make sure you fill up everything, and that's something to just watch.
I was my very first year. We didn't have auxiliary tanks. We carried gas with us on side bags. So to me, it still sticks in the back of my head. All the places that we ran out of fuel before we had to put fuel in, and we did run out of fuel, all of it at some point. But it now I know like pretty much, and it obviously snow conditions make a huge difference on all of them. But it's still to this day it's the same. Every year it's pretty much like what Tyler's saying. Like on the Yukon, it's really weird when you go from that Galena to Caltag, or especially like Ruby to Tanana. It's 120 miles. I mean, I've ridden with our auxiliary tank. We've run 140 miles, no problem on our sleds before. But at the same time, we've been lucky to make it 100 miles with everything filled up and carrying like 2 extra gallons of gas with us. It's still not making it. So. The conditions are really weird there, especially like say the first team that between Ruby and Tanana, that trail is really not utilized. It's not used very heavy. So what happens is there's a trail there, it gets a crust on it, and say maybe the first team might be decent for them, but they break through that crust, and that it's so cold there in the interior that there's no binder in the snow, so it's just there's a lot of drag. It's like sugar snow, and you will go through more fuel than you ever.
So start to get in tune with your
Expect,
sled.
yes.
Like you're going to see in these sections, start to see, okay, I've got a good RPM. You're at 8,100 RPM. You're rolling, but all of a sudden you happen to be looking at your speeds, and your speed's actually like something crazy. You're really slow, like an 85 mile an hour or something. There's certain sections of that, like you said, it's loamy or it's cold snow. It's got a lot of drag in it. There's sections actually like Ruby to Galena is a smaller section, but there's a lot below. There's a sand like aggregate that gets blown into a section there right outside of when you leave Ruby. Your sled's going to be really dragging. It's just going to, you're almost going to think there's something wrong.
Yep.
But it happens to be the snow conditions. And you'll start to get in tune with that as seeing like RPMs to mile an hour. You can kind of learn, start to hunt for it on the trail to find where the fast stuff is. And those are all things that time in the race you can start to learn, and then you'll find where that relates back to your fuel consumption. And there's a lot of things going on that you're processing all the time.
And on that same note, like it doesn't matter what brand you're on, because even the ones that get better mileage, maybe at slower speed, at full throttle, are all pretty close to the same.
What do you think their mileage is? What do you think what I think I'm going to get on the Yukon wide open?
7.
5. I anticipate
We're 5 to
getting,
6.
I figure
Expect
5 to 6 is all I'm going to get on mine. Wide open. It's pretty awful. They suck fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're going faster than even. I tell people this story all the time. My very first year, I was asking a lot of questions, like, "Hey, what was the biggest thing for you in the race?" And I'll never forget, like one of the guys I was talking to, he said, "Well, 2 things for me really stick out. One is that I felt like I got spanked like 1,000 times, and 2 is we got on the Yukon, and he's like, I held it wide open for like 15 minutes. He's like, I've ridden on a lake before. I've held it to the bar, but it's for 30 seconds or 1 minute maybe. maybe 2 minutes on a really long lake that's smooth, but that's the longest. You're like, I held it open for 15 minutes. For my very first year, we got to Ruby. We left Ruby. We did not let off until we got to the slough before Galena. We were to the bar. It was sunny out, as smooth as the smoothest trail you've ever been on. We could see, and I'm like, 15 minutes, my ass. This is like a half hour of full throttle, just not even letting off of it. So I mean, it's, you know, even for people that are maybe a little bit slower, you'll be going faster than probably you normally would ride if the conditions pertain
Kotzebue
to
can
it.
be
So.
that, northern region can be that way too. Those trails up there, they put in some damn good trails, they mark the living crap out of them, and they can be fast and
Yeah, they can be the exact opposite too. So.
I don't know where.
But when it comes to a race strategy, basically, you know, you're going to come up with a plan like I was talking about. You know, I think, you know, the reality is as plans change, things change. You know, you might have a breakdown mechanical. Don't let that bother you. You know, have kind of an A, B, and C plan, and even a D plan. Make sure you discuss it with your teammate. You guys are in agreement with what you want to change in your strategy and your plan and how you're going to do this. I think a big part of it is, like I kind of talked about it, as a pro class racer, I think your goal the first day should be to try and get to McGrath. I think that it's almost like you're playing makeup if you don't, and you always see it, the guys that kind of fall behind end up staying in Squinta or Quintilla, whether they want to or not. Don't plan on it, really don't. I mean,
Stay with the pack.
stay with the
Just
pack
try
for
to
sure.
stay, whatever the leaders are doing, try to stay with that. You do not want to get behind and think, oh, I'm going to do this, this is going to be better. Stay with that pack as much as you can. Like, it's best advice I guess I could try to give you is
Yeah.
that is, you'll be amazed how if that pack starts moving away, how all of a sudden there's no trail, there's all these things because maybe they went all the way to Unaclete and you didn't go, and then they took a short one and went up, and all of a sudden they're in Kotzebue and you're waking up in Galena and you're like, oh shit, they're right there. Like it'll happen. It's crazy how much ground we cover quickly in that. So.
Yeah,
Alone
that's
on the
another
trail,
big one,
exactly.
too.
You're alone on.
You don't,
Yep.
and you don't really want to be, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, it can happen, but you know, if you're the last team on the trail and something happens to you, whether you're just not going to get the assistance from someone behind you, so you know, you're better off to kind of stay up front or with the main pack. And it's not to say that you can't be at the back, it's fine, but don't linger back there the whole time.
I've seen it last year. It was actually kind of impressive because I think everybody kept with it. Was essentially went from Nome all the way to McGrath in a day. All the front runners did, and everybody followed suit because they got pushed. But that was a really good thing. I think it was good for the race to show like that was doable. And a lot of those guys in the back, I mean, they sucked it up and did it, and it kept things moving and kept it finishing on time. Again, it's not going to be a lot of fun at times. You got to bear down, but then it's,
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is making sure, you know, there's an advantage and a disadvantage of riding at daytime and nighttime. You know, some people will swear that no matter what, you're faster in the daytime, but with the lights and stuff that we have now, sometimes if the conditions are not good and it's white out, it might be better to ride at nighttime. So be thinking about that in your strategy. Sometimes, you know, hey, I want to just lay over here and go to bed, but it's going to be white out in the morning. Maybe you're better off to keep going a little bit further, especially like on the Yukon or up on the coast, for instance. If you can see pretty good in the evening time, maybe it makes sense just to keep going, especially if you're paying attention to the weather. That's a big part of this race. Is you're going to want to pay attention to the weather and see what it's going to be doing for the next couple of days. It's going to play a big part in your layovers and in your strategy. So.
I guess something. I guess we can tie this in here now. Is I wanted to point. Yeah, I was going to bring out something. This is like a trail thing. I don't know where else to bring it up, but it's something. It took me a lot of years to figure this out, so I want to pass it along. And like, anybody that's been out on the trail, you ever notice the little yellow markers on the trees in the tight sections? You know, right? Those are reflectors. That's where this comes in at night and being able to find the trail. But I don't know if anybody, like, if you're trying to find the trail, blew in or something. Does anybody know how those reflectors are oriented in a way to tell you where to go on the trail? You never notice they're egg-shaped-ish? Kind of a. So when it hits a tree and it's egg-shaped and it's straight up, that means the trail goes straight. If the trail turns there, it's turned. those little markers are indicating left, right, straight. So if you're ever in a real bad scenario, you're not sure where to go, or you pick those up, and that's something you do, you get into a big swamp and you're trying to find those markers to find where the trail goes out the other side, that's a way to do it, is with your headlight, and these headlights is picking them up.
Sometimes look up in the trees, because sometimes they're put
They're
out
up.
there 20 feet
Yeah,
snow.
exactly.
And sometimes they're put in where there's no
But
snow.
those are 100% an indicator of how to go. Like if you're really, there should be an established trail. But for the it does. It's something, it still blows in. You can't find it. You'll be able to find those reflectors. It's amazing how well you can find them in dusk or night. Even in the daytime, they'll still pop up sometimes. But at night, use those to your advantage if you ever get in that scenario. That's how they are oriented in a way to help you find where the trail goes.
Kind of going to layovers and checkpoints. Make sure you guys understand the layover scenario. I mean, doing the race as long as I have, it's changed so many times, and so it's a little bit different. Almost seems like every year. And just make sure you guys kind of understand that. Ask questions and how it works. Make sure that there's also been quite a few years where, I don't know what the case is now, but knowing where your actual layovers can be, because sometimes they have changed where you could lay over them in the past and then they change it. So just make sure you understand that when you pull into some place that it actually is a layover, that you're going to lay over there. We kind of talk about the mandatory holds, kind of understand the holds, that that's not part of your layovers. So just kind of understand that, ask questions on it. A couple things to be thinking about. Some pro class teams have planes and some don't. You can't really rely on a plane. So one thing to be thinking about, and I learned this, about 4 years into the race. If you think you need parts or you're going to have parts someplace, pre-ship some of that stuff out. Be thinking about some of those major hubs that you can maybe ship up totes. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about clothes, is a big one too. Maybe on the Yukon, maybe in McGrath, a lot of front ends would get taken out on that first day. So if you don't have a plane, maybe think about having a front end in McGrath ready for you, so you could patch it and get to McGrath and change it out there. Same with Nome, that was another big one for me. I remember one year we showed up, we didn't have any street clothes at all, so we're running around in our bunny boots and our gear. Yeah. Send up a bag. I mean, it's real simple to send a bag up there to Nome and have some street clothes in it. So when you're up there, you have some, it's there. Or have somebody, if you know somebody that's going up there, or ship up something up there so you have it. It makes it a lot nicer to have some sneakers and some street clothes while you're there. You're there for, 36 hours roughly, 2 nights, so you're there for quite a while. So it's just something to think about. Same with parts, talk to the guys in the past what they've used. That's another place where there are dealerships up in Nome. So maybe check ahead of time, maybe get some stuff set aside for you before you go. But most guys would say that you don't have to do this, but say if you're a pro, you might be changing your belt in Nome. Have a belt ready there. Make sure it's already there. Instead of carrying an extra belt, have it in Nome ready to go. So you can keep your spare belt on that and put a new one on while you're up there. Or ship stuff up. Same with say carbides, if your carbides are worn out. Some of the wear item type stuff that you almost know that you're going to potentially change. And some years it's different every year, so you don't know that you're going to have to do that. But if you think you're going to change your belt, again, have that stuff up there. There's no reason to not. Or make sure, like I said, maybe a dealer up there has it, and you can buy it there. You don't have to ship anything. But you also want to make sure that they have it or set aside for you, because if you don't,
That goes hand in hand, having things down here. Maybe you need something up there, you're planning on it. You have your certain shock that you want that is utilized that you may be needing up there. Maybe you don't want to send it up there, but have it ready down here to where you have, you can tell somebody ship this up there for them. Having that prepared on this end too. most all that's gonna be, you're gonna be able to utilize Gold Streak, right? They're gonna be able to run that into Alaska Airlines, they'll ship it right up. That is something to be aware of. Shocks can get, that's something that Alaska Airlines will sometimes flag, and all of a sudden you're counting on it, and you're like, oh, we're not sending that, that's got compressed gas in it. So it has happened, so just things to be aware of.
Good thing is you can send your shocks without them. You can decompress them and then have them recharge. So
I've had it where they wouldn't take it up.
I've never had
I've had it decompressed and they still say, nope, it says it can add, just be aware, like, that's something sometimes can.
So when it comes to a couple things to think about, like at checkpoints and layovers, sometimes it might make sense, like with what you're dressed in and what you're prepared for the next day. So I mean, a perfect example is, you leave Poor Man and you're usually pretty warm. It's pretty warm usually, but when you drop down going into Ruby on the Yukon, it's cold. So be thinking about, you might need an extra layer of clothes when you get on the Yukon. Again, this might be an option for a good spot for potentially like a layover, even maybe a short layover where you want to stop, put on an extra set of gear before you go again. So again, just be thinking about those kind of scenarios that might work for your advantage. Same thing on the Yukon. When you're on the Yukon from going northbound, you're going Ruby, Galena, and Kaltagan. So you're on a smooth, fast, cold run. When you get into Kaltag, the trail can be pretty rough sometimes. Not always, but it can be pretty rough. So you go from 40 below and not moving very much to all of a sudden when you get to Kaltag now, all of a sudden you leave there and you're in the trees and the bumps, the whoops are this big and you start overheating because you're dressed up for 40 below on the river. Again, you might want to be just kind of thinking about that as you took a layover, maybe get rid of a layer potentially, or be prepared for it when you go through it. But these are the things that can help you as racers where you want to pick your layovers. And I think talking with any pro guy, they can kind of tell you what they've historically done. And the things have changed over the years too with how things and where people lay over. But like I said, like what Tyler said, a lot of times you can just kind of follow what the main leaders are doing. It's not always the best scenario. They might be laying over because they broke something, and everybody just kind of follows them and does the same thing. Where it might make more sense to keep going. Usually, in my opinion, if everything's going good, and you want to stop someplace, but everything's going good and everything's flowing good and the weather's good and there's zero reason to not keep riding, I would say keep riding. Go as far as you can that day because it always seems like it works out better if you do that as opposed to just being like, we'll just stop here. And it's like, why didn't you stop when it's like sunny out, nice out, and everything was going good? Why? I mean, it makes no sense. So think about that. Other things to be thinking about, layovers and checkpoints. Having cash on you, both for paying for places to stay. Some villagers say they won't accept any money. We always just stash money in their place there. Some people will ask for some money, but a lot of times they don't. We always give them money pretty much no matter what. It's also good to have some cash for trading stock. So, again, almost everybody on the trail just loves the Iron Dog, and you can get parts anywhere. A lot of people are willing to strip the parts. Again, be very courteous if you get parts from somebody. Either 100%, actually, I should say 500% pay for those parts, and or make sure if they just want to either replace them, don't wait 2 months to return parts. Get those out as soon as possible. You might not have time to do it between there and Nome, but when you're in Nome and you have 36 hours, you making some phone calls, get stuff ordered, and get it shipped out to them. Get that stuff replaced as soon as possible because all of us will be in that position, and you might be in that position to need it sometime, and people will be like, yeah, we're not interested in helping you guys out. Keep them wanting to help us out. So, and we always send more stuff, Hey, just send me some stuff. Hey, send them a bottle of oil, send them a gallon of oil, send them something extra, make it worth their time. It's worth your time. It's saving your ass by using someone else's parts. So
Take care of it.
Yeah, take care of it.
And like you said, cash, you're gonna want cash out there. You're not swiping your card at these places. You're gonna wanna. Go ahead.
For guys saying the rain pass, they did up the price again, it's now $400.
Gotcha.
So this group,
I don't know how we don't stay there, right? In this,
Yeah, yeah.
we don't, but you have trail class guys that are staying there. Yeah, I know that. There is some exception, like Rainy Pass might take card. I don't know. I think
They have,
do they?
yeah.
Okay, they do, and then McGrath will, and I mean you can use them in Nome. But a lot, what we're talking about is you're in between villages, or if you're staying at somewhere when it comes to the Ruby, Galena, Caltag, Unaclete, Koyak, Buckland, Selawik, all of those, like, if you have to stay somewhere, it's like, common courtesy is you go in there, is at least leave, between a team, it's pretty sure, we usually go at 200, it's like $100 a person at least.
Yeah,
minimum.
I would say
150
at a
fees.
minimum, especially the people that say
Minimum.
they don't want anything, we typically do $100 a person, just so you know what we do.
At least
Yep.
something as here's a token.
Yep.
And that's kind of I'd say what,
Yeah, I would say that's a minimum
minimum
amount.
amount.
So, something else to consider, like the pro class guys, when you guys get to know them, is the halfway point, what they call it. And, we're gonna put our sleds in the garage and let them thaw out. You really wanna inspect your sleds earlier than later. You want your sleds also to thaw out at the same time, so you don't want to just show up to Nome and go inspect them because they're going to be a block of ice. But what you don't want to do is the day you get there, let's just say you get there, you want them to thaw out for 4 or 5 hours, and then go inspect them, because you want the ability to be able to get parts. So if you can't get parts there in Nome, there's 2 flights a day from Anchorage. You can Gold Street parts up and get them in Nome. So don't sit on. And I recommend this for any time you guys have any major repairs, even in any village or any checkpoint at all. If you have a problem, figure out what it is you need, and don't just go off the clock instantly and say, oh, we'll just deal with it when we get up or later. You want to figure out what you need right then and there and get parts coming, because that's one nice thing that the layover structure allows now, is that you could potentially get parts flown in at some places if you need it. So, again, when you're in Nome, do that checkpoint, do the inspection, look at what you need, start rounding stuff up right away. Don't wait. Don't wait till the last minute to find out that you can't get something that you need, especially when it's something simple.
Sled prep.
Yeah.
Go right in. So sled prep. This is going to be more probably focused towards like testing, break-in miles, consideration, like what do you guys think, like for as far as like we could ask how many miles to put on my race sled. I am historically somewhere in the 100 to 200 miles when I'm doing to break it in. That's just usually easy, break it in, cycle the motor, heat it up, cool it down, taking care of it, making sure nothing major is going to happen. It seems like there used to be this train of thought, like, oh, don't hold the thing wide open. Well, first thing you're going to do in the race is you're going to cross big like wide open. First 5 seconds. So might as well do it before that, because there's people that, if a sled is going to have an issue, more than likely it's going to happen in those first 200 miles anyways. Like, if it's going to be something that was a fluke, like there was ECM failure or some sort of, all these little things that happen, they happen early on in the sled, most likely. So go run the thing, break it in right, but then run the piss out of it. Let the thing, make sure that your RPM is right. There's nothing goofy. Like, go walk, let that thing, let it eat.
People don't even like the way when we tell people how we break our sleds in, they don't like it at all. We pull them off the trailer and we're full throttle across the lake all the way. That's how we break our sleds in. So, right or wrong, for right or wrong, that's what we do.
Start understanding, prep. This is all in here too. Windshields. Figure out which windshield's going to work for you. This is also going back to like that testing, prepping stuff beforehand. Whatever you've done in practicing, make sure that's what's on the race with windshields and that nature. Making sure front rear suspensions, greasing, Loctiting everything. You guys notice on some of these, my sled over here is probably is too. If you ever see, anybody know what the little paint markers are on the rails? You ever see that? See the paint mark on there? Anybody know what that is? Yeah, that's right. It's indexing it so that you know if that bolt ever came loose. Now I can indicate that. So they say you can't touch your sled at a checkpoint. You can't touch it, but you can look at it. Well, I can look at that little skid and make sure that it didn't come loose. Anybody else know a good telltale with like what something is coming loose? You're in white snow, you're making metal, what's going to look like? It's going to be black.
Black
You see
and
black,
gray.
if you see black and gray like all over a rear suspension mount or somewhere in a bolt, anything, and there's white snow that is now black and gray, there's an issue somewhere around there because something is coming loose. You're making metal, something's spinning, a bolt's moving. That's like an indicator. That's something easy to do at a checkpoint even. That doesn't have to be on a layover. Like that's a quick glance. I'm doing that like, oh shoot, like drop back a torque link, something's black. It means I should give that thing attention. I need to look at why that's coming loose. Look at those indexing, find out is there a bolt loose, something of that nature.
Yeah, indexing is a real quick, easy way to do it. I don't have it on my sled. This was just my practice sled that I threw together in one day last year when I went to go train. But in our race sleds and even our practice sleds that we take up, if we go on big long rides, we index them just because it's just a quick, easy method, like Tyler said. When you get to know them, you can inspect every single bolt without having to even put a wrench on it, and you know if it's been loosened up or not. Seats, one thing, we typically don't break our sleds in as much as the player says. We usually do about 100 miles. Again, sometimes you don't have the option to even have a fresh sled, so an older sled, it is what it is. So, but I would put on a minimum of 100 miles no matter what. Just making sure everything's good on your sled.
I don't know if everybody already does this too, but this one. So one kind of a quick little easy thing too, recoil. I suggest always like pull your recoil out, put a knot in it right behind your handle in case your handle, like you break that handle off and it sucks through. That recoil goes back in, it'll stop it at the recoil. It's a little thing to do. Raise your hands. Everybody know how to, anybody know how to not, if you lost the recoil and it sucked in, anybody know how to start your sled?
She pushes a button.
I don't have that.
I wish I had
If
that.
you don't have a button to push. Raise your hands, everybody know, or anybody that doesn't know how to start it. If your recoil broke, you don't know how to start. So, ever notice like in a,
Hold on.
oh yeah, right there. Why don't, it wouldn't hurt to stand up for a second. Why don't we, you want to do it on yours? You want me to do it? Let's do it. I don't want to start it, I'll show you. I'll do it. You can get up. Okay. There's always questions. I had to do this for the last day and a half of the race last year, so I broke my recoil halfway across the burn. And a million times I shut it off and start. So, say you're pulling your sled over and the recoil breaks off, rope sucks back in, you can't start it, right? No way, you don't have her electric start. If you're looking at this, question 2 is which way to go with it. Like, obviously your clutch is going to be spinning forward, right? It's going to be they're going counterclockwise, pulling. So what you're going to do, like Ski-Doos actually come with a white rope, and they're little toolkit here. We know what that's for. And do Polaris come with this?
They go with this, like this, so this right here, you clip this on the first, so I can't slide it,
So,
basically.
Ski-Doos, you can back around. So what you would do, is go around the clutch. What do you do?
Oh, they don't?
What's up?
So
You're not the only one that's had to do this, right? Yeah.
We just wrap this around. Now it's on there. You can just get it around there. All right, it should have started. It would. So that's all you do is pull it and it just, yeah. A lot easier with the ropes, right? Now I'm not really good.
But yeah, having just little tricks like this that, you know, I mean, there was one year that we were riding, same thing, I had a small little fire under my hood and it actually melted my new coil rope. And same thing, I had to start it with the strap. Nothing you want to do permanently, you want to probably like get your dome and stuff, you want to change that, just to get you through the last day or yeah.
That's when you're ready. Don't fall here.
The flares, this is one that comes with flares, it has this little, I always put this behind this. Yeah, this is, put it in there and stuff right there. So I have separate axes and you pull it, this and that, and you have to hold it, so it strips grabs on there.
We still have it, I'll get that.
Bring it on, stick it there, and I'll put it on there. Basically, that's the same as
Yeah, they used to have this little plastic.
We still have it.
I don't think
The tab, they still come with the rope, right?
Yeah.
they come with the ropes.
But we say it's our old tabs, so.
Unfortunately, I had to do that. Yeah, make sure it's moving, yeah, you always want it to be rotating.
Yeah, so you want to be able to, that's a big thing, you want to be able to make sure you're pulling the clutch, or not pull. So you're pulling from the back.
We're gonna work on that later tonight. I'm gonna make you do it.
But it is something, like I said, I had to do it for probably 4 times in the race. You did?
Something else to kind of think about, you know, you ride a sled all year, and if you're fortunate enough to have a new sled for a race sled, something to maybe consider is, like I know our seats, the player seats, they're pretty hard. You know, and that they take a long time to break in, so you might even consider breaking your sled in or your seat in prior to just the 100 or 200 miles prior. You might want to ride it 500 miles prior to the race, and or maybe even use your practice seat that you've been running with all year for your race seat. So give yourself a little bit of cushion. Kind of talk about a little bit about like the bags. I wish I forgot my bag, but I've gotten in fights with my teammate in the past about bags and stuff. One thing is if you use a soft bag, like we use the Dixon bags from Fine Line, I like having a little bit bigger bag than I need. And the reason why is because you don't have to use all that space, right? And we suck everything down anyway, so our bags are really small when it's all said and done. I like the ability to be able to put something else in there if I need to, whether it's oil or a part or a light or something you pick up off the trail, or maybe you want to bring some extra clothes that you weren't planning on. Having that little bit of extra space to me is nice. If you have hard bags, it is what it is. But the nice thing about the soft bags is, like I said, I like to have it a little bit bigger than what I think I really need, so that I have that extra space in there for emergency use. We had, reinforcing sleds. You know, the Iron Dog's pretty tough on the sleds. All the sleds nowadays are pretty solid right from the factory. I honestly believe you could take these sleds and someone can go win on one. So, but what I will say is there are some areas that are a little bit weaker than others, and what I call insurance policies that they hold up fine without them, but in really extreme cases, whether you hit an ice shelf or something like that where you can have a problem, there's quite a few things that we do to our sleds. And like I said, not all of it is what I consider mandatory. Most of it now is more just optional, or what I call insurance. So when it comes to the Polarises, I'm a complete open book for you guys. If anybody running Polarises and want to know what we do when it comes to reliability or additional stuff that we do to our sleds to make sure that they last, I'll tell anybody and everybody everything that we do. There's no secrets whatsoever. I'm not saying you have to do all of those because, like I said, I think you can take it right out of the box and it'll make it no problem. So, but I also think that there's some potentials of, you know, like I said, you get in some extreme conditions. It's really hard on them, and you can do a lot to mitigate it. And so, you know, like I said, anybody ever want to talk about what to do? Just I have no problem whatsoever discussing that. Grips, like handlebar grips, you know, like this is something else. We used to change our grips because we didn't like one grips were too grippy and stuff like that. So again, if it's just something that you're used to, or we run what comes on the sleds now, it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. Some of them were like super grippy, and some of them were the exact opposite where they had no grip. So, you know, you want something kind of in between, or just make sure that you're comfortable. Again, don't change it the night before the race and do something different. But you know, for me, a couple things. Talking about studded tracks, tracks that are studded on the outside. I want to discuss this a little bit. They talked about they changed it this year. I think you can run the factory studded tracks. Yeah. You can run factory studded tracks. I can tell you from watching, not personal experience, but seeing personal experience with the factory studded tracks, I think that they have a place. They might work really well in some conditions. I can tell you in super when it's icy like last year, that they don't dig up the ice enough to create additional cooling for your sled. So having traditional sleds or traditional studs in your track, you know, it used to be two per bar. Maybe you could get away with less than that if you have a factory studded track, or when I say a pre-studded track with the little studs on it. But you want to definitely test that out. And you can easily do that by, if you and your teammate have the same sleds, and you'll know exactly if it's overheating or not just because of the track.
So anybody that doesn't know, studding, center studs, centers are for going straight. That's what accelerating braking. That's what those studs are for. Your outside ones are for going around a corner and keeping the thing from sliding, left, right, bite. As well, you start to notice it in this race. We get a lot of like troughs, and they want to grab, the edges grab well. So that's kind of where that is. As a minimum, a lot of people, well, to maintain 2 studs per bar, it's going down the middle, right? That's what that is. And then outside becomes to your preference. If you like it, you don't like it, whatever. You look at mine, look at Chris's, we both stud the outside, the outside belt.
I typically don't, but last year was, you know, with the ice the way it was, it definitely is nice for stability on ice. I can tell you the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of having more studs is I do think that cooling, it helps because it's chewing up more ice. As far as handling goes, it handles way better, especially when you're talking about riding on pure ice. The downfalls, let's talk about the downfalls. It is a lot harder on your sled having the studs on the outside. It's a lot harder on your track to have studs on the outside of your track. I can tell you, if you looked at last year, you looked at every single track that was blown last year at the end of the race, all of them were studded on the outside. There was not one track that fell apart that was just studded on the inside. So I do believe that there's some little bit of reliability issues or potential. Ski-Doos actually have no problem, but It definitely does cause
That
some.
came from heat. It was
Yeah,
heat. There was heat, right? You
Yeah.
build, when you don't have snow, you build heat in those grooves, and be aware of that. Is like, there's more aspect to just snow cooling and like keeping your
Track cool.
snowmobile cool, but it also keeps your track cool, and the track they can get so hot they start to delaminate and you start pulling that apart, right? It's just layers of rubber and a cording of it, in there. That heat can cause issues. The argument to the outside studs is if you rip an outside stud out, you're on the very outside edge of a belt, that could cause your track to start ripping from the outside into the inside cords, causing a problem. That's where the reliability standpoint has, right? There's gives and takes of, now you've lost that control, like you come sliding into something, center studs are not going to bite as much, so your sled's going to slide around, you could catch edges, right? I've broke both ways. As of late, I run outside ones. I like them. It's a lot more control with that. Personally, that's all. Again, it's all personal preference away.
And the other downfall to them is like our coolers on our sleds are on the outside. So if you lose a stud, you have the potential of poking your cooler. Where with inside studs, they come out, it's just on the tunnel. There's no, unless it's the front cooler, but typically it's not. Typically you'll see the stud marks in the back, towards the back. When they come apart, they fling around the back and they go up through the cooler. You see quite a few cooler issues.
One thing this is from most stud manufacturers is you want 1 stud per horsepower. These are all about 130 horsepower motors-ish. 130 studs is that's what a stud manufacturer says should be. There's also, you can get into a lot of studding stuff around here. It's easier the more studs you have on a track on another. This is another side of the way to look at it. The more studs, now you've dispersed that traction in that load, because that stud is biting in. Now you're putting a load on a small little round piece of that track. Now if you spread that load out across that track into more studs, it's actually easier on the track. So there's easier on the stud, which is easier on the track, or can be. So there's all these things. I mean, this is something you can explore, pros and cons, however you want to look at it. But those are things we're looking at.
And I would say, generally speaking, there's going to be something else that a lot of people have mentioned over the years. When we were kind of talking about, what was the craziest thing about Iron Dog? A lot of people were like, I couldn't believe it how little snow we ride on. And you'll figure that out. Pretty much no matter what, there's going to be a point in the trail, whether it's up coming into Unalakleet or the berm, or those places are typically not a lot of snow. Up on the coast, there's spots, like I said, Unalakleet, Shacktulik, there's a lot of wind there. There's not a lot of snow in those areas. Even though they might get some snow, it blows away what snow they do get. So it's just ice and tundra that you're driving over.
Snow is optional.
Yeah, snow's optional, yes. Something else to kind of talk about sled setup is lights, external lights. I mean, that's obviously something that's changed a lot over the years, is running auxiliary lights. That was kind of the argument we were talking about, like, should I be running at daylight and daytime or nighttime? I mean, these new lights are so bright that, it's 20 years ago you can understand that, hey, the lights weren't that good. I can see why, no matter what, running in daytime would be better, but anymore, it's pretty crazy how the lights can make a big difference running at night. One of the advantages with the way that the layovers are now, it doesn't force you to go riding at night or daytime or whatever you don't want to do. In the past, we used to actually be forced to have to run at nighttime no matter what. But again, maybe you might want to run at nighttime, except with the way that the lights are and stuff, so maybe it's an advantage. But you might want to try some stuff out. Other things to consider, things like having a little mirror on your sled. You don't need a full-blown rear view mirror, but I do see a lot of people just get those little cheesy convex stick-on mirrors and putting it somewhere on their sled. And it's not so much that you're looking at it and looking in your teammate's eyes in the back. It's if you could see a light or something that's reflective, so you know that he's back there, so you don't have to continuously look back. I've tried a couple of them, none of them really worked for me, so I just follow now. I think the biggest thing when it comes to sled prep, sled setup, in my opinion, is suspension setup. Having the right suspension setup. We kind of talked about a little bit when you guys weigh these things down, getting ready for Iron Dog. You're more than likely, depending on what sled you're riding, are going to need heavier springs at minimum. And then when it comes to valving, setup, and or reinforcement, in the past, that's always been the big thing with the races. You know, suspension failures. Again, the newer modern sleds, it's not such a big thing anymore. But you also, if you're bottoming out, it will destroy your skid. I can tell you that right away. So the thing is you want to go out there and test, make sure that you're not getting that your sled's riding good and you're not just absolutely bottoming it out all the time, because that will destroy you, your sled, and everything else.
Skidoos like to be high in their travel, right? It's actually, they like to be held up, especially the skid if you're riding a Skidoo. And actually, I think pretty much everybody Skidoo level, we've kind of talked to a little bit, and the same with what Chris kind of hit on earlier, pretty open book with like the things to do to make sure the Skidoo's I don't know if I touched on that too much in there, but they do like to be high in their rate, so you stay very smooth in that portion of the shock stroke, right? You start settling in, and that really goes for any brand, is as you settle in and you start throwing that weight on, and now you're collapsing that suspension. By not having it sprung up, everybody's like, oh, that's too heavy of a spring. Well, the spring's holding that thing up so it stays high in its stroke and travel of the suspension that's smooth. Because as you collapse it, you actually get a stiffer, more progressive rate of that suspension where it doesn't ride as good. So just by not putting a heavy spring on there, now you're even stiffer and it feels worse. Well, so there's all these considerations
and on the Polaris, it's exaggerated, especially if you're running a like an XCR, I believe they come with check valve shocks. Some of these shocks that are in the rear are a progressive shock, so it's not only the linkage that he's talking about, it's actually the shock. So what happens is the further you're into your travel, whether it's the mount of the reservoir or if you have a needle, that means you get into it a lot sooner. And believe it or not, even though it's a soft shock, you'll be riding down low like that. It's actually the shock is in its stiffest mode. And so that's your ride zone now, and it doesn't like it, and so it's going to ride like crap, as opposed to like Tyler said, even ours, no matter what, you want it to be in the correct ride zone or have the correct sag in your suspension, or it's not going to ride good. Regardless of what you do to the shock, it's just not going to ride good. And if anybody has any question on suspension, I don't give out my valving. I'll tell you that right now. It's just one thing. I've worked really hard at doing my valving, but I will steer anybody that, like when it comes to what springs you should be running, no problem. I'll help out anybody with springs and even with their suspension setup and valving. I will help anybody with valving. I'm not going to give you my valving, but if you're doing your own valving or you're trying to figure something out, I will steer you in the right direction 100%. So, and what you should be doing. So, come talk to me anytime. I don't know if my phone number somewhere, but anybody can call me anytime, whether it's talking Iron Dog, sled setup, anything. No problem at all.
So this goes into, and I'm to speak to the Skidoo people, which I believe we've all spoke already, is it's kind of an open book, headlight bracket, rear tanks, any of the bracing kits. We have now built that over to where there's a singular company. Tri-Jet has every little thing that Nick and I use, and we have now allowed that to be offered to everybody. Anybody that hasn't got it, you can get that stuff. That as well goes in conjunction with, so if you want that stuff, that's what Tri-Jet's going to offer, is specifically that. They're kind of like, this is all we're going to make. We're not going to make variations. If you want stuff for ours, this is what you get. That is as well as the bag that's made that we've come up with. We feel like it's pretty much the best setup we've come up with. Maybe there is something better, but Fine Line does the bags for that tank for everybody, makes it the same for ours as it would for anybody else here. That setup, that's cookie cutter between Tri-Jet and Fine Line, and he will make those exact with very little, if any, variations. So for anybody that doesn't have a Skidoo and want to, that's kind of how that works. Is you just kind of have everything. You can go to those, and you have all this stuff.
Fine Line, I hear that he's not doing them, and then I do, so I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Doug, but like the Dixon bags, we've been running those for years. That's what we run. run stuff from Tri-Jet and from Anchorage Sheet Metal for us. Anchorage Sheet Metal makes our tanks, so, but Tri-Jet
Doug is
also-
making the Skidoo stuff, I know for a fact, he's not gonna make variations of it. He's gonna make that bag, windshield bag, and gauntlets, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
So,
And gauntlets, I know we hit kind of a little bit on gauntlets. I'm using the fine line gauntlets. Try different gauntlets. Some people, I wear gauntlets 98% of the time. So I just wear them all the time. So it's easy for me to get my hands in and out of it. I'm not fumbling around trying to do it. My last teammate didn't wear gauntlets ever unless it got really cold, and then when he had to put them on, he just bitched about them the whole time. So just get used to wearing them. I mean, my advice is to get used to wearing them, and it's no big deal. It's second nature. You're just used to it. It's just part of it. I believe Tyler, I see him running them most of the time.
most of the time, I roll it, if it's
Yeah.
real hot, I'll roll them up.
Yeah. and
I
I'll
will
do
plug Doug on that, there's no better gauntlet out there, I would argue, than anybody else. That is, he builds the best gauntlet there is for a snowmobile
Yeah.
with our setup for warmth and everything. That is, I would argue it any other way.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately,
They're good.
they're very good.
But there's a lot of them out there. Try them out. Make sure it works for you. We kind of hit a little bit on the auxiliary fuel tanks a little bit. You know, I ran out of gas my first year, fuel out of the first year. We were running about 5th place. And my teammate ran out of fuel, and then I ran out of fuel. And this was when we were allowed to get help outside of a checkpoint. But we were the only, everybody laid over in Ruby. We were the only ones that didn't lay over in Ruby on the way to Fairbanks. And so we were the only ones out on the trail and went to Tanana. So there was nobody behind us. And I ran out finally about 10 miles from Tanana, and I ran/walked for, I don't know, 45 minutes probably. And then finally someone had come out. They realizing that it was taking us a long time to get there, so someone came out and picked me up. We went and got gas, went and fueled up our sled. But it was a real bummer for us to run out of fuel. So anybody want to guess how many times I've ran out of gas since then?
0.
Exactly, 0. And so I would prefer to have more gas than needed. We typically have more fuel than any of the other teams, unless you're getting the same tank as us. But I'd rather have more. It doesn't take up a lot of, I mean, weight-wise, yeah, there's a little bit of additional weight for having some additional aluminum on there, but it's marginal to be a little bit bigger. I'd rather have more and not need it than to need it and not have it. So
You guys run the saddles from Anchor Sheet Metal, right?
Anchor Sheet Metal saddles and or those ones there, those are from Anchor Sheet Metal also.
Skidoos are roughly at that setup, right? It's utilizing a trail tank with a rear aux tank for like 15.5 gallons. We have on board.
So yeah, you just want to make sure you have enough. Like we talked about, the conditions are really weird that we still get nervous sometimes, but
And then this last year.
yeah, all the players are really running around here. So hopefully that's be fixed this year. We also have, you know, another thing too is, you know, on our sleds, like when Tyler was talking about the fuel mileage, when you're wide open, when you slow down on these and your power valves aren't opening them, your sleds will get substantially better mileage. I mean, they will go from 5 mile an hour, say up to 7 and 8 mile an hour, to where when you go down even lower, 10 and above for your mileage on a decent trail. So keep that in mind, as I always put it, a slow ride beats a fast walk every day. So if you know you're starting to get low on fuel, maybe just back off a little bit. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, the gauges are not the most accurate thing, so you really can't go off of those. You'll get a good feel for it. The more you're riding, you'll get a kind of a feel where your gauge is, how much fuel you have.
That in line with the Skidoo, keep it below, if you're worried about it, go below 7,000 RPM and your power valve is limited in its opening, and it's far more, you're gonna actually, I said that 5.5-ish range, of worst case wide open in that draggy snow, we're gonna go over 20. They're gonna get very efficient as soon as that power valve is no longer kicking in.
Yeah, so just slow down if you think you're gonna.
As well as like maintain consistent, like kind of a mid throttle.
let's see. You know, bags and storage are another one too. I kind of talked about a little bit about I'd rather have a bag that's maybe just a little bit bigger than I need and being able to have that extra storage. But again, we run these soft bags that we can squish down so they don't really take up that much room. You can have a little bit extra bag. We've had, you know, different bags made that go on top of the console to, you know, like the factory players, lock and ride type stuff, which works good, which you can run with the saddle tanks, which is nice. Under hood bags, we have bags that go under our hood, so you can stuff actually a lot of stuff under our hood. Again, I can tell you from experience, one year we were putting our sleeping bags in our belly pan, and we discovered the night before that it was going to take us about 4 hours to get one sleeping bag to fit in our belly pan the night before the race, because we never tried it. We just assumed it was going to fit in there. So again, this is stuff you want to make sure that your sleeping bag is going to fit in your bag before the night of the race, or before you go run up to the starting line. Don't wait till the
I
last.
highly suggest your sleds done the week prior, because when you can do it, try to have your stuff all done and ready to go. That's I know it's not everybody, not everybody can do that, but if you can, shoot for that. Like, put that pressure on yourself to say it needs to be done the week before. And that last week's a lot more enjoyable when you're just kind of hanging out, maybe go a ride on your practice sled or something.
Anybody have any questions on sled setup, so?
We talked about water mineralization for footrest.
Oh yeah, so like for us, like on our Polaris, we actually run full running board close-offs on ours. If you don't, the skis tend to direct the water directly to the running board, and the running boards on the new Polarises, on the Matrixes, are all open, and it ricochets right off your foot, and it'll go right to the clutches. So you definitely want to have at least some sort of running board close off at the front of the, under the, on your, you guys can kind of take a look at my sled when we're done here, see what we do. You don't have to be as extreme and put it on the whole thing, but on the very front foot of where your feet go, I would highly recommend having some close-offs there. And you can probably, and you might get away with it not having them, but I'll tell you what, I would chance it, especially if you have to go across the water.
It's good news you don't do
On the, talk about field repairs, you know, when you guys are out there, you know, when you're doing the Iron Dog, I tell people all the time, it's not about if something's going to go wrong, it's when something goes wrong. It's going to happen pretty much, even if it's minor. A couple things to think about. One is, you know, when something goes wrong, whether it's your teammate makes a mistake and crashes, or something breaks on your sled, you fighting with your teammate is not going to get anything done any faster. So again, even if it's his fault, you got to remember no one's perfect. Things are going to happen. The best thing to do is just figure out how to fix it and move along. The quicker you start putting your head to trying to fix it instead of getting mad at your teammate, the quicker you're going to get back up on the trail. Just a few things that we've come along over the years that have worked. You know, having something to be able to patch a front end. A lot of people do carry A-arms on their sleds now these days. You can fit them on the Polarises, under the hood, and on the running boards or whatever, so you can carry some A-arms if you do break them. If you don't carry them, there's some easy way to patch A-arms. One thing that I do is I always carry hose clamps, and lots of them. A couple of long wrenches if you need to, 2 or 3 wrenches that you can basically box it up and clamp it down with hose clamps. Works really, really well. I even have some, you know, some made up, find one that you can basically go around some tube and put some hose clamps on them and it holds it really, really well. Little piece of angle iron if you wanted to, another thing you can do. Like I said, if you have some longer wrenches, works just fine. I've done that multiple times. You're supposed to have a working tail light and brake light. I don't know if it's mentioned in the rules that like a lead dog will be accepted as a tail light, so that if yours does go out, you can utilize that. Like a lead dog helmet light, if you're not familiar with them, they plug in and they work off the brake and tail light too. Bungees, you know, it's nice to have some bungees on your sled just in case you have to throw something on, strap something down. Straps or a ratchet strap is always really nice too because you can really crank it down if you need to. Again, having tools, knowing what tools you're going to need is a big one. What I like to do is we tear our sleds down to pretty much nothing and build it back up. I took a picture, I purposely didn't get I didn't bring in a bunch of tools that I needed, and I've got a picture of every single tool that I completely dismantled my sled and put it back together. And you'd be really surprised at how few tools there really are if you don't get carried away and just grab a bunch of extra stuff that you don't need. Same with like nuts and bolts and washers. I carry not a lot, but I do carry some nuts and bolts, kind of some of the common size stuff that we use for our rear skid. Washers are another big one. You can use washers for all kinds of stuff. You lose a rear idler wheel, you can put a big washer back there to be able to hold it all back together. Same with like a hose clamp. You know, we'd be able to do some repairs, some tie wire. I like to carry some of this, like, you know, metal epoxy, like you can you know, knead it together like JB Weld or metal epoxy, just in case something breaks. We have screws and washers, some self-tapping screws and washers, so that if you do take out your heat exchanger, you can typically put those in there and patch it. You know, just a few things that we've done in the past. Rope, also like paracord, having a thing of paracord. There's been a few times like hoods that really want to come apart. You can kind of stitch back together and tie them together to make them very usable. You got anything to add to that?
I mean, pretty much it's the same thing, right? You're gonna MacGyver it back together, make it work, get somewhere and fix it. More than likely, you're gonna do whatever that means. How to get creative with some stuff, whether it be hose clamps, rope, bungees.
Okay, we're getting down to the end of the thing here, so be thinking about anything you guys have to ask, any questions you guys have to ask. But a couple things that I do want to hit on. You know, safety should still be first. I know this is a race, but you know, you still want to come home to your family and friends and stuff like that. The way we train, this is something else that I think a lot of people don't take into consideration, and I'm sure Tyler's very similar to what we are. We're not riding at a different pace when we race Iron Dog than we do when we're out practicing. It's not like all of a sudden, hey, we're in a race, we better start hauling ass. So now we're riding above a pace that we don't normally ride on, right? That's just a bad idea. When we go out there and train, not always, but most of the time, that's the same pace. The difference is our pace is that quick pace that we're doing when we're training. We continue that quick pace the whole time during Iron Dog. We don't slow down, take breaks, that kind of stuff that we do when we're riding training. So it's not like all of a sudden you become Ricky Racer the day of the race, but you've never ridden that pace before. We see this all the time. There are so many years that someone wads up before you get off Big Lake. Someone will crash and like end their race kind of crash. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let the hype, don't let the butterflies. If you've practiced every weekend, you will, when you leave Big Lake, should be the same as you left it the last time you rode out there. It shouldn't be any different.
Somebody's gonna go blown by you, pass you, it's gonna happen.
Yes.
Don't get all worked up over it and think you need to go run them down and chase them. Let them, that's obviously their race. Let them do what they're doing and you do you. I mean,
Yep.
it's, I don't know how,
Yeah.
it's easier said than done.
It is. I tell people all the time, you ride your race, don't ride everybody else's race. That's where everybody gets really into that they have to try and make up time. Making up time, I can tell you in this race, I can tell you it will fail 100% of the time, you making up time, trying to make up time. You trying to go faster is going to be slower. I guarantee it, 100%. I guarantee it, because you're going to be making mistakes, you're going to be breaking down. It doesn't work. Ride the same pace that you've always ridden. Even if you have a mistake, more than likely everybody else is going to have mistakes and mechanicals and problems and everything like that. So don't worry about that. Like Tyler said, I can tell you in 2006, we got passed by the same team 8 times probably between Finger Lake and the Burn. And they would go blowing by us and just absolutely just screaming by us. And they would be out in the middle of, they would freaking blow a corner and then be stuck over there. And here we are just tooling along. And we'd pass them up. And this happened over and over all the way until they completely ripped off their front end. So I mean, going that fast didn't do them any good at all. It just didn't, it didn't pan out. So ride within your own ability. If you have an oh shit moment and then you have another one, you are going too fast. It's one thing to have one, but when you continuously have them, you're going too fast. You want to make sure that you're riding within your comfort zone and your ability, because when you start having problems, it's a snowball effect in the Iron Dog. You have one problem, will lead to another problem, will lead to another problem, will lead to another problem, especially when you're trying to do that makeup thing that I'm talking about. Now all of a sudden you're like, well, we're way behind, we got to go faster now. That's a horrible idea. Just do what you were doing, ride your race, ride the pace that you were originally going to race. There's going to be guys that are going to come up to you and pass you. I highly recommend not getting into any individual racing in the Iron Dog. If there's a team on your ass, just get over and let them by. Because one thing is if they're on your bumper, that means they're going faster than you. They caught you and they're going faster than you. Let them go by. It could be an advantage to you, because if it's crappy weather, hey, maybe you can latch onto their bumper and follow them for a while. If you're comfortable, hey, keep doing that. Also, there's a lot of times where these guys will catch up to you and you will find out that they really weren't going any faster than you, that they're actually going to start to hold you up. But anyways, don't get into that mentality of wanting to race, because that's when the mistakes will happen. You guys will start screwing around, and this is a long race. Whatever it is this year, 2,400 miles, that's a lot of racing, and to have one mistake that tears off a front end and costs you so much time, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Just let guys by. On that same note, the first day, when we leave in 2-minute increments or whatever, if you're in the pro class, be very conscious of there's going to be some really fast guys that are racing, and they might be in the back of the pack. Be very aware of people coming up behind and be courteous and letting people by. I'm considered a pretty nice guy, and I will let people, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but I have taken out 2 taillights in this race because people wouldn't let me pass them up, and I rammed them and made sure they knew I was there, and I was going to run them right over to get by them. So be aware of people. Yeah, I know. I was getting real mad. Just be courteous and be, like I said, I'm not going to come up and break you. As long as you move over, I'll even give you plenty of time. And I'm sure Tyler's the same way. You guys, and there's lots of places. There's some places you can't go by. We know that when we're in a single track and it's this deep, we know that you're not just going to be able to get out of the track. Just do the best you can, and when there's a spot, get out of the way. That's all I'm saying. So it'll happen. It'll happen the first day. Again, don't worry about it, especially when people are passing you, because sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. So don't ride above your head. Yeah, pull over. And the last thing I have to say is test, man. Test your stuff. Make sure it works. Make sure it's going to work for you guys. And the sooner that you can be doing that, the better off you are. We don't have the best conditions right now for testing, but there is some riding to be had.
You can get out.
You can get out, even here, this Tyler
rode
went
it.
yesterday.
Yeah, I rode
We went up to Petersville and Eureka and rode up there, it was decent. Sucks that we driving that far to try and ride, but you can't get out and go riding right now.
Any questions?
Yeah, questions? This is where we get a whole bunch of, you guys have been thinking of all these questions the whole time? I guess all of you are professional Iron Dog racers, ready to go. You know everything. Any questions at all?
Have fun. Enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's an amazing experience. I look at it a lot different now. This is 22 years of me doing it in a row. I don't know. I love it. It's super cool. It's an amazing experience. Enjoy it. Take it in. I mean, just there's so many cool perspectives of just Alaska that you get to see that you would never see any other way. The villages, the involvement of the communities, what you get to see out there. It's I mean, not to sound sappy, it's life-changing. Like, it is cool. Some of the greatest people I've met in my life have been through this race and connections, and it's a good time. Enjoy it, have
It
fun.
is. It
Is there
is.
anything that we good to bring, like to give to kids at checkpoints or things
Stickers.
like that?
I'll tell you what,
Love
bring
stickers.
some stickers. Yeah, if you guys have some
Talk to
stickers
them.
and talk to them and
Take
give.
the time.
Yeah, hand out like stickers or something that packs up really easy. But in the past, we've got little stickers and gave them to the kids. And, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. And I'm in the same boat as Tyler. I mean, this is obviously it's changed my life. I've been sucked into it for quarter of a century and loved it. I got addicted to it. I read an article on it and thought I wasn't even a racer back then. I just wanted to I wanted the adventure of riding across Alaska where someone was looking for me if I didn't show up somewhere. So this is a great way to see Alaska that a lot of people don't get to see and enjoy it, especially the trail class riders. You're not in a race. Enjoy it. Enjoy the scenery and take some time to enjoy it. So
It's pretty cool. It's crazy to be that like remote and desolate. If I was in the trail class, I'd tell all you guys, get out there in the middle of the Yukon and shut your sleds off and sit for it in the middle of the night. I've had to do that on another level training, and it's kind of eerie. It's a whole nother perspective. You're in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of cool.
you got some questions?
Nobody else ever knew me. Just two things. When we had a meeting with the BLM Teacher School Office, they wanted to let us know that as participants in the, I know you guys have a lot of their eyes and ears on the trail, and some of the Route trail you guys will be going over. So you guys see anything on the trail that we can bring up, let us know. We'll report that back to them. We can report to them in the race. So, just let us know if you see anything that should be known, just let us know. Also, anybody who didn't sign in, we have these two reports here, so that they were here, most of the people are here. Anybody not sign in?
No other questions? There's no dumb questions. It's time to ask. Like I said, my phone's open. You guys can call me anytime and ask me questions. I have no problem. You can ask my wife. I love talking Iron Dog, so. Yeah. Yeah, Shady knows. She's heard me talk about it once or twice. To get her husband on there. You can talk Iron Dog for hours on end. So. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I've raised the amount of time.
Yeah. You got more experience than most of the people just by being around it the whole time, your whole life.
Yeah.
Well, good. I appreciate everybody coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions or anything about your racer bios, anything like that, come and see us up here. We can answer it.